My name is Cambria Wren. I'm 24 years old, and I never believed in ghosts, not until I moved into that apartment above the bookstore. What I experienced there wasn't just haunting, it was intelligent. It wanted to study me like I was an experiment. If you've ever passed through Grayson Street and seen the boarded up building with the shattered skylight, don't stop, don't look up, subscribe, like, and share if you're brave enough to witness what happened. Inside this story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries. He found the listing by mistake. I wasn't even looking for a place, just browsing through student housing boards while killing time between lectures. It was posted at 3:07 a.m. No photos, just a sentence. Studio apartment. Above room 6, $350. Month furnished, utilities included. One condition: no entry into the ground floor hallway after dark. The address was familiar. It was the old Ashridge bookstore building, abandoned for years after a fire. But when I passed it on my walk to class the next morning, I saw a light in the upstairs window, faint flickering like a candle. Curious and reckless, the perfect combination. I emailed the contact a strange address ending in ghost, assuming it was a joke, but I got a reply within seconds. No name, just, "It's ready, bring one bag, don't speak to the man behind the desk." Against all logic, I went. The front door was unlocked, dusty but warm. It smelled like books and something metallic. I walked through the dark shop, old shelves toppled, paper fluttering like feathers on the floor, and found the stairs tucked behind a curtain labeled "Employees Only." As I stepped onto the staircase, a coldness bloomed beneath my skin, like I had just passed through static. Upstairs, the studio was perfect, clean, cozy, a twin bed, desk, small kitchenette, nothing suspicious, until I noticed the mirror above the sink. It had no reflection, not warped, just blank, like a window into blackness. That night, I recorded a voice memo like I always do for class projects. I described the space, my impressions, and then somewhere in the playback, I heard it, a second voice whispering under mine saying, "She's inside now." Observation begins. I checked the audio file, my voice, and something else repeating, studying me to 14, and I heard footsteps in the hallway, the one I was told not to enter. After dark, slow, heavy, like someone dragging something behind them. I peeked through the door's peephole, nothing. Then a knock 3 times, soft, deliberate. I didn't open it, but when I turned around, my mirror had changed. There was a word scratched into the glass from the inside: subject 25. I wasn't the first, and if I didn't leave soon, I wouldn't be the last. He didn't sleep after the first knock, not because I wasn't tired, but because I didn't trust the silence. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It was charged, like the space between thunder and lightning. I spent most of the night staring at the mirror with subject 25 inches scratched across its surface, wondering if it had been there before and I just hadn't noticed. But no, the scratch marks were fresh, dustless, precise. I tried recording another voice memo, whispering so the walls wouldn't hear, but again, on playback, my voice wasn't alone. A faint ticking sound echoed underneath it, like a metronome or a countdown. I checked the room, no clocks, no mechanical devices. But when I lifted my pillow, I found a note. Observation begins at 3:00 a.m. Please be seated. No signature, just that the note had a sharp chemical smell and aseptic and rust. I threw it away, locked the door, and decided I needed to leave. But when I looked outside, the street was gone. Literally just gone. Where Grayson Street should have been, there was only fog, thick and pulsing like breath. I rubbed my eyes, blinked, and for a second, I saw rows of windows stacked vertically into the sky, like I was looking into a building that didn't exist in our world. In each window, someone was watching. Some were people, some were something else. Their faces had too many eyes. Some wore masks. One was me. And then it all snapped back. Just an empty street. Again that night, I stayed awake at exactly 3:00 a.m. The mirror glowed not brightly, just a low pulse like a heartbeat, and it began to show footage, not a reflection, footage, a film of me sitting in the chair by the desk. But I wasn't in the chair now, I was standing watching. In the footage, my eyes were bloodshot, my nose bled slowly. I was whispering numbers backward: 24, 23, 22, all the way down to 0. When I hit 0, I stood up in the footage and walked into the hallway, the one I had looked. I turned to look at my real hallway door. It was open. He grabbed my phone and flashlight approached the doorway. But before I could step out, I noticed something else, something wrong. The footage on the mirror changed again, now showing a room below me. A concrete room, white walls, observation glass, a table, and on the table, my backpack, my shoes, and a tape recorder labeled Session 25. There was something moving in the corner, slow crawling, the shape of a person, but with a camera for a face. When it turned toward me, the mirror cracked, and I saw my own eyes staring back, but they weren't afraid. They were watching me, and they weren't blinking anymore. I didn't remember opening the hallway door, but it was open wide, waiting like a mouth that had just started smiling. And the worst part was, I didn't feel fear. I felt curiosity, like I'd been prompted to move. I stood just outside the threshold and noticed that the walls were changing, not literally shifting, but the paint, the wallpaper, was peeling backwards layer by layer, like rewinding time. Names appeared under the paint, dozens, all carved into the wood with surgical precision. Subject 01, Subject 02, Subject 03, and then a blank space at the end of the list. Like the house was saving a final slot, I stepped into the whole flashlight, trembling in my hand, and noticed that the light from the apartment didn't follow me. The moment I crossed the frame, the bulb above the door fizzled out with the softest total darkness behind me. A forced path forward, the hallway led to a small stairwell I hadn't seen before, stone, not wood, and colder than anything upstairs. No light, just the smell of chemicals and copper. My phone lost signal, and the flashlight began to flicker, like it was afraid to. As I moved downward, I heard it. A machine, slow mechanical breathing. It didn't echo, but vibrated through the walls as if something massive was sleeping just beyond. The next landing at the bottom of the stairs was a hallway lined with observation windows, the kind you see in interrogation rooms, blackened glass reflecting me. But behind one, I thought I saw movement, a pale hand scratching, reaching. I found a room with a file cabinet and one dusty office chair, facing a wall of monitors. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and the screens were all cycling through live footage of other apartments. Some showed people sleeping, some showed people crying. One showed a girl staring directly into her camera, whispering, "I know you're watching." And in the center screen, me in real time, standing in that basement, looking up at myself, blinking, out of sync with the feed. I turned slowly, and there was nothing behind me, just a thick wall, solid concrete. But the screen showed a figure standing inches from my back, watching, waiting, unmoving. I ran. I didn't scream. It felt like the walls would record it and play it back later just to haunt me. I made it upstairs, slammed the door shut, but everything was wrong. My furniture had changed. My voice memos were gone. The mirror now displayed a new word processing, and the worst part, the clock on my desk read March 3rd, same date as the first day I moved in. Bit I remembered 5 days, maybe 6. Building D reset me, and in my closet I found her file labeled Subject 26. I didn't leave the apartment for 3 days after I found the file marked Subject 26 in my closet, not out of fear, but because I started to feel like leaving was no longer an option the building would allow. Every time I touched the doorknob, I heard whispering behind the walls, mechanical, clinical, like someone was taking notes from inside the drywall. On the second night, I began to feel static along my skin whenever I got too close to the mirror. The word processing was still etched into the surface, but now the mirror pulsed every 33 minutes, almost like it was sensing with something somewhere else. I opened the Subject 26 file, hands shaking, expecting documents, but instead it was full of mini cassettes and marked except for timestamps and coded labels like Loop Test A12 and Cognitive Drift 03. I found an old tape player in the cabinet beneath the sink. The first tape I played wasn't mine. It was a girl named Andrew Lean, and her voice was cracked and dry as she whispered into the mic, "I've been in this apartment for 72 days. The lights change colors based on my thoughts. I stopped seeing myself in the mirror 3 weeks ago. There's someone else in there now. She looks like me, but doesn't blink." I kept listening. More voices, dozens, some calm, some panicked, all of them describing changes to perception, time loops, messages, and dreams, hallucinations that turned out to be warnings. The last tape was unlabeled, but I recognized the voice immediately. It was mine. I didn't remember recording it. My voice was lower, slower, almost drugged, and I said, "The apartment learns your limits. It shows you what you can't unsee just to see if you break. If you're listening to this, you're either in denial or already part of the experiment. I dropped the tape player, hit the floor, and cracked open. But instead of tape, a key slid out, rusted, engraved with the number 6. I had never been able to open room 6 on the ground floor. It was always locked, always cold, always humming like something behind it was alive. The moment I picked up the key, the walls began to throb with static, soft at first, then sharper, more electrical, and the light above me flickered like it was being filmed. My phone lit up on its own and a video began to play. A girl standing in room 6, back turned, breathing hard. And then she turned around, and it was Meviet, not like I am. No, she had no eyes, just skin stretched across the sockets, and she was smiling. On the wall behind her, written in something dark and wet, Subject 27, pending installation. I haven't used the key yet, but I can feel it in my pocket, growing warmer every hour. I unlocked room 6 at exactly 3 o'clock a.m., the same time the mirror upstairs always pulsed, and the moment the key clicked, the hallway lights behind me went dark, like the building didn't approve, but couldn't stop me. The air grew thick, like stepping into water, and the inside of room 6 was far larger than it should have been. Endless rows of equipment, monitors, analog switches blinking silently, and a wall lined with cassette slots, each one marked with a number from 1 to 26. The last one was blank, waiting. I stepped inside, and the door sealed shut behind me. Without a sound, the hum I'd always heard was louder now, coming from the floor, the ceiling, the machines. And then I realized it wasn't power, it was breathing. Everything inside was alive in some terrible technological way. On one monitor, footage played of Subject O frame and repeating a question over and over: what's my real name? In another, Subject 17 was clawing at her reflection. Subject 11 had gone still, no motion, just open eyes, and a steady camera pointed at her face. I moved deep. And that's when I saw the chair. Not an ordinary chair, medical grade, bolted to the floor, surrounded by thick black wires that disappear into the wall above. It was a single screen, and on that screen was me, not live, not reflective. A video of me sitting in the chair, even though I wasn't. She blinked, I didn't. She smiled, I stepped back. She whispered, "Loop confirmed, install begins." Suddenly a metal drawer beside the chair slid open, revealing a head strap, something like a mask, and a pair of ancient headphones covered in tape. I turned to run, but the hallway behind me was gone, replaced with mirrors, hundreds, tall, thin, slightly warped, all showing different versions of me. In one I looked 12, in another I was dead. In one I was laughing like something had broken inside me, but only one reflection moved in sync with me, and behind her a man in a suit without a face. I spun around, but there was no one there. When I looked back, every reflection had turned their back on me. Voice crackled through the room. Not in English, not in any language I recognized, more like code mixed with breathing. It translated in my head without permission: "You were never meant to leave. Observation completes." When the subject becomes self-aware, then the final monitor lit up. It showed my room upstairs, my bed, my mirror, and sitting in the chair by the desk, me. She looked up, locked eyes with the camera, and whispered, "Subject 27 has been watching this whole time." I'm starting to think I never moved anything. I was active. A test lights inside room 6 dimmed the moment I said the number aloud. Subject 1, like the system had been waiting for someone to remember her. And when the monitor beside the old observation chair flickered, on it showed a timestamp from decades ago, the 6th of March 1961, long before this building had electricity, before the bookstore ever opened. The footage was in black and white, no sound, just a girl in a hospital gown, sitting perfectly still in the same chair that stood next to me. Now her eyes weren't blinking, her mouth didn't move, but her shadow, it twitched. The screen jumped, glitched, then froze, and when it returned, the girl was gone. The chair was empty. But the camera kept rolling, minute after minute, hour after hour. Days passed in seconds, and then sometime in the blur, I walked into frame. Present day me, dressed exactly as I was now. I reached for the headset, sat down in the chair, and smiled the same eerie, hollow smile every previous subject eventually wore. I backed away from the screen. My breath was fogging the air now, like the room had dropped 10 degrees in seconds. Every monitor began cycling through memories, my memories. But they were wrong, out of order, rewritten. In one, I saw my mother tucking me in. But it wasn't my mother's face, it was the girl from 1961. In another, I was at a school play standing on stage. But there were no children in the audience, only rows of black-suited figures with camera lenses instead of eyes watching, recording, nodding like evaluators. I fell to my knees dizzy, and that's when the floor opened beneath me, not physically, but perceptually, like a cut in the film of reality, and I saw what was underneath. Everything knit ghosts, knit demons, stainless. Rows of stored footage, lives reconstructed from emotion, thought, reaction. The entire building, the bookstore, the apartment, room 6, wasn't built on haunted ground. It was constructed like a server. An emotional archive designed to copy consciousness under stress, and I was part of its test group. Voice came again, through static, through every speaker, through my own thoughts. Now, the first subject reached completion. She became the mirror. The others followed. You are the first to loop back into awareness. I crawled to the monitor. The girl from 1961 was back in the frame. But this time, she wasn't looking at the camera, she was looking at me, and for the first time her mouth moved, said, "You're the upload." Then every screen in the room flickered, and they all showed my face, each one a little different, each one less human, and the mirror upstairs. It was glowing again, this time with a countdown, and the mirror wasn't seconds, it was cycles, like the final rotations of a reel before the tape flips and begins again, and with each silent tick I could feel my thoughts slipping, not like forgetting, but like transferring memories, growing lighter in my head, then disappearing entirely, only to reappear on the monitors across the room, already categorized, time-stamped, backed up. My first nightmare, my 6th birthday, the moment I saw my father cry, gone from me, glowing on a screen labeled transfer. WREN to 7, the mirror now displayed not just my reflection, but my reflection speaking ahead of me, saying words I hadn't said yet, moving before I did, like it had become a pre-recorded loop, predicting everything I would do, and I was just trying to catch up. I ran back down into room 6. I screamed, but the room absorbed it. The sound didn't echo, it was recorded instantly, looped back into the static that surrounded me, folding my voice into the machine like it belonged there all along. I tried destroying the mirror, the tapes, the chair, but every time I struck them, they glitched, reset, rewound time. By a few seconds, the system wouldn't let the story break. I stood in front of the observation chair, shaking as a final prompt appeared on the screen. Accept replacement. Why? And I realized that was always the choice. The horror wasn't in being possessed, it was in being used up, emotionally mapped, recorded, digitized, and filed away so something else could use your shape. Not just to mimic you, but to live in your place. I never moved into the apartment. I was brought here, selected, monitored, measured for upload, and when I whispered no, every light in the building went out. He woke up on the floor of the apartment. Empty, quiet, the mirror gone, the hallway sealed, the studio restored. Like nothing had ever happened. My bag was packed, my name had been removed from the mailbox, my lease was void. A voice memo sat on my phone titled, "Welcome Cambria," dated 2 weeks before I ever arrived. I played it, and it was me saying, "If you're hearing this, then the original has been safely archived. You're the clean version now. You'll feel like yourself, but the apartment knows the difference." I checked my eyes in the camera, they didn't blink. Thank you for watching the apartment above room 6. What would you have done, resisted, or uploaded? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share, or your reflection might walk away before you. This story was written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.